Hey, everybody. Good morning. It is Paul Grossman, the dark arts wizard of test automation. And today I'm going to go and revisit one of the things I showed you last week. I got a little bit of feedback from my list of automation features. I'm going to show that to you right here. And the one of the biggest requests I had to do this was that it needed to be a little bit more organized, a little bit better, a little side by side organization. Because scrolling up and down to get from the basic to the advanced versions just wasn't really working it for me or anyone else. So it was a good advice. So I thought I'd do an update on all of that. This list is built in WebSim, and this is the URL you can get to it by. I'm going to go and throw that up here on our comments so you can see them up there. Here we are. So that's where you can get this list. And I am updating it, but the cool thing and the first cool thing about that this list is that once you go to this URL on WebSim, you can go and check mark different items. So first of all, let's pick a platform like ExcelQ over here. And you'll see that it says it's the ExcelQ automation features. These are specific to those features. So if I go and turn on Windows, Chrome, and Mac Safari, and I switch to a different one like Atom, it remembers this. By the way, now this isn't being shared to everyone who hits this link. This is unique to your computer. So when you get on, if you hit this URL, you'll find that all of this is all blank. What this is a good little checklist. If you are being asked to do a proof of concept, we want to take a look at some different automation tools out there and see what features that they have. You can use this checklist to go through and identify what's in there. And in fact, you can also, you have notes over here, product notes. You definitely will want to know how your product is being charged. Is it a fixed per user seat? Is it per execution run? Is it freemium and then tiered, or consumption based, or enterprise? And any notes that you have over here, this is cool. That is interesting. This interesting. So that's a weird little thing that is going on, and I think it's only happening when StreamYard is actually running. So, but anyway, you can put in notes about how well this feature is moving. I'm going to go and just check something over here. Let's do a little system check because I am a QA test automation engineer. Nobody's looking at the moment. This is a check of the keyboard. So what I was just seeing over there is something going on in the product notes. I'm going to go and see if we can fix that. So since we're doing this, we'll do it live over here. Let's see. I'm going to go edit this. Okay. Check the product notes field is working correctly. The input is acting strange, inserting backspaces when typing. Okay, so I'm going to have the AI go and check that out. So while it's doing that, let's go and talk a little bit about this. I'm going to go close that off over here for the moment. So the big thing about this, since I got one person who's watching, by the way, welcome to you on YouTube. You should be able to chat with me. So if you want to go and take a look at any chats that are going on, you can see it over here. I've got those chats open. Please be feel free to ask any questions. So while you're watching, I'm going to get forward on this. So I've got a list of different features that every automation tool should have, but not all of them do. Let's start off with, I heard a ding somewhere, but I don't see, well, we'll find out. I guess that's maybe because we lost somebody. Well, maybe it'll ding when we get more people. Anyway, we have different basic and advanced features that we'd like to see in this. Our basics, starting off with, is our operating system and browser. You definitely want to have your tool work under Windows and Mac. That covers about 80 or 90% of your people, the clients and customers who are using your product. You also definitely want to see Chrome work under Windows and Mac. Its browser is Safari. You want to see that. And then at least one kind of extra one we'll throw out there. We'll say Firefox is what we want. To be honest, yeah, Firefox is just definitely one extra one out there. And then I'm putting in one mobile device so that we can see, iOS is the most popular one that's out there, but it is a little bit more pricey to order to support and do. So over on the advanced side, well, we're going to go back over to Windows. You definitely should see Edge work on Windows. You might have some Mac people who have to use Windows, and they're more happy to use Safari. So Safari Windows is a kind of more advanced version. You want to see that your tests all work under all these browsers. Do keep in mind that this can become kind of a big scale that scales a lot. I've got 150 test cases, but if you want to make sure that they run under 2 operating systems, two smartphones, and 2 other browsers on Windows. You got 3 browsers on Windows, 1 on a different operating system. That, I mean, you have 100 test cases. You're now multiplying it by 4 or 5 times. If that's the most important thing, it may be. I don't usually think it is. My most important thing is to cover 80% of what your users are using and doing, and then make a section of tests that will go and test the rest of it. If I get 80% of my customers happy, I think I'm good. And then the extra 20% we want to verify later. All right, let's move on. Other things is the framework. Is what is your website built under? Is it just plain HTML? Is it React? Or is it .NET? These are, I believe, the top 3 frameworks that are being used today. And then on the advanced side, if your site might be created under Vue, Angular, or Svelte, those are ones that you want to also take a look at. In my list, not only do I have this, I have little info buttons that say, hey, this is what we're kind of talking about over here. And so if you need more information, this is where you can go pick that up. Our next level is basic and advanced actions. At the very least, your automation tool should be able to go to some sort of URL, a specific web address. You should be able to enter some data, selecting something from a list, and click a button. That is basically your login functionality while you're doing that over there. You should be able to upload a file, clear your fields, submit a form, and also hover over something and then do a mouse over click. This is your emergency. It could be on our advanced side, but it is. There are times where I've had to actually physically move a mouse over an element to go and click it. And the reason you want to do this, what's the reason? Simulate a click injection requires a prior hover over state. Actually, the reason you want to do this is because you might have a situation where actually clicking the mouse with the automation, if it doesn't actually work, the click may not actually work for you. There are situations I've seen that. different tools or actually different environments just don't interact correctly with that, and you want to have a backup on how you can go and mouse over an object and go and click on it. Another reason you might want to do this is that when you are doing a click with an A or a button, that could be on a let me scroll that up there so you can see it. What I'm saying is that could have a modal dialog box popping up in front of it, and then the rest of the screen is blocked because you can't see what's out there. You can't interact with it. Now, the thing of a good automation tool is that if there is a modal dialog being popped up, you shouldn't be able to interact with the elements beneath it. You should have the exact same functionality that a manual tester has with an automation tool. And that's one of those tricky things that you have to look at, like, oh, well, is there a way that we could set that up? Well, as it so happens, there is, because you know what Pauly does? He creates his own little fake environments. So let's go back over here to Dark Arts Wizard, and we're going to go over to our web sim. And what I'm going to do is go over to my projects, and you can see a lot of my projects are already kind of listed over here. And if I go back a little bit, let's see if I can find the example. There's a combo box challenge, grading tools, 3 counts, all sorts of different versions of tools that we have that are different challenges as we go back. Boy, I've been building a lot of them. This was, let's see, this is a serial survey. This is it, the Dark Arts Shopping Center over here. I believe that's what I want. If I do an add to cart, I do a checkout, you'll see that I get a pop-up screen over here. And can I interact with the screen behind it? Let's go to checkout. Can I click this button? I can only click it when this is focused. So if I am attempting to, with a pop-up with a modal dialog that's blocking this, we might want to make sure that the elements behind it are not interactive. And in fact, I think I'm going to go to that version. We're going to go edit that since we're doing this kind of live. And we're going to create version 10. Null order summary. Dialog can only be closed with the cancel order or confirm order buttons. All right, and we'll let it sit there and do that. You can see there's a whole bunch of different AIs that you can use, and it's currently using Gemini Flash over there, which is using 100 tokens. I'm going to try with Nano and see if it's able to do it. We'll let that chug away. Remember, if I'm clicking down here, it clears it. And I don't want to do that. I want to be able to do only cancel order and confirm order. Now it's thinking about it here. You can see it chugging away. And we'll see it do its little thing. Now here's the new version. Let's see what it did. I want to go add this to the cart, click on checkout. Now if I click over here, you can't do anything. You can't interact with any of that. If I cancel order, then it will cancel the screen. And now I can interact with this. So that's one of the tricks I like to point out to people, is that your automation tools should be able to know when it cannot interact with an element or a button. All right, that's on the basic side over here of the elements we want to do and the actions that we do. On the advanced side, might want to think about, well, you might want to switch browser tabs. Definitely, I have multiple browser tabs. You should be able to see them up there, which tab you're on and which one is active. You should be able to send keys. Now, this is another thing I've found. Sometimes an input field won't accept the input from an automation tool if the element is not being, if the enter key isn't being sent. Hey, I gotta give a shout out to whoever's watching me on YouTube. And also keep in mind you can chat with me. So there is this one guy who always sends me this message. Go check out his stream, and that's cool and all, but I'm not here to promote your stream. Huh. All right, we're gonna take a look here, right? And some of the other things you might want to do. Instead of a click, you might want to have to do a right click or a double click. In fact, a triple click. You're like, what's a triple click? Well, here, check this out. I'm going to click this once, it highlights. I'm going to click twice, it selects the word. Now, if I click 3 times, it selects the entire line. Another advanced feature, you should be able to drag and drop to some other area. You might want to have URL basic authentication. Take sure that you are where you need to be. What else we got? Uploading and downloading and verifying a file. Do a file download. You should be able to validate a PDF. Wow, I'll have to add that and mention it there. And we also want to have a clipboard read. Read your clipboard. Sometimes you might want to paste from your clipboard. I don't find that works really well. It seems like a clever idea, but it's not. Some sort of print dialog, something that pops up and actually displays independently what you've got over there. That'd be kind of cool. Permissions like geo and camera, you have to go and say, do you allow me to interact with this particular area? I find that in Best Buy's website. We'll do that if you hit on it. Multi-window pop-up handling. So if very similar to what I mentioned over here, here's your multiple windows and a pop-up, and even a what we call a toast message that is up there, and very briefly up there. All right, let's see what else we've got over here. Next is assertions. Well, you want, definitely have to have a hard assert, which is it stops on the very first failure that you find. Test ends. 99% of the automation tools that are out there do this. You want to see if maybe an element is enabled or disabled, visible or not visible, exists or does not exist. Now, you want to be careful of this one over here because exists is not the same as visible. It could exist but not be visible. Contains or does not contain some sort of text. That means it's a substring match. URL assertion, verifying that you are on the URL that you're expecting. You might want to be able to do case sensitive or substring matches. Case sensitive is you definitely want to have the name of your product with the correct capitalizations listed there. The advanced ones under assertions, a startup health check. Make sure your system is ready to go. The databases are up. Everything's warmed up before you start running your test. A soft assert, which means the test will continue even if it has a failure. I'm not a big fan of hard asserts because you only get to see one failure. If I was testing every element on this screen and let's say this one failed, I'd want to know more about do these guys work? Does the clear button work? Does the advanced and does this information appear on this screen? That's called a soft assert and do all those verifications, not just stop and restart and have to do it piecemeal. Accessibility, you want to check that you are matching the standards for WCAG, and that's for visual context. A little information about that. Just make sure that people who might be colorblind are able to see your website. Of course, using AI in order to do validations, image validations, whatever it is that you're looking for, contract testing. And that is, verifying the API providers and consumers are in sync. Service level response time, the page is coming back to you in a reasonable amount of time. Database state assertions, and just checking that the contents are correct once the database has been updated. And the last thing I could think of was definitely doing PDF file verifications, checking the content, the metadata. Hey, I've got another viewer up there on YouTube. Welcome. And he ran away. So next we're looking at advanced and basic and advanced element classes. So the types of element classes you should be able to interact with, well, there's text elements, divs, H's for headings, P for paragraph, checkboxes, which are essentially input of fields, lists, which is also an input, just a different type, and then a list, an input field, which is an input field. You have maybe a multi-character input field, radio button, comic boxes, as I mentioned earlier, buttons and links, which is the button and A. I was going to put square brackets around that, but it just didn't like trying to put that in there. It would just mess up the page. So I got to live with it. It is what it is. Image and SVG files, maybe we're validating those, and those can be done with text that's describes what's in the image. Or you could use AI to go and validate that. You want to check and make sure that a drop-down menu has elements that are in there, the menu items. You should be able to check that if you got a slider, that the slider should be able to work, as well as a scroll bar, vertical and horizontal. And if you're hovering over something, you should be able to verify that there's a tooltip up there. We definitely want to do that. On the advanced side, well, we want to be able to know that we can toggle or a switch in on-off states is working. We want to be able to disable, see if something's disabled under a modal element box. We are just talking about that just a moment ago, that if you have a element that is under a modal dialog box, you should not be able to interact with it. You should be able to identify your elements if they're in iframes or shadow DOMs, because this is one of the biggest challenges we have in automation, is that something gets into the wrong iframe or shadow DOM, and it is cooked into or baked into the locator that it can't find it because the iframe or the shadow DOM changed it. If you're looking for a good place to test this, I happen to know of one. So up here, I've got a input item over here is called Selectors Hub. And if I go down to tutorial, we can find, well, these are tutorial videos. There is let's see, this is a profile. I'm going to see if I can find this. This is a tutorial. How about help? I got to go find this. This is, okay, issue. I don't want issue. I want to actually go to Selectors Hub website. And profile, tutorial. Is not quite doing it. It's not the YouTube. Let me see if I can find an info on this. So there's support for standard, Playwright, and JavaScript. And let's see if I hit the info over here. Well, that just took us to YouTube. I'm going to go to Selectors Hub. We'll do that. Close these guys out, close that out, close out these issues. Oh, it's Selectors Hub. Guess what? We're going on a little bit of a Selectors Hub Chrome extension. Let's go to download. Let's see if we can find it. The Selectors Hub, we go over here, and we have some resources. I am looking for, I think it is at the very bottom, if I remember correctly. There's a little link that says there's a little sample site. Let's see if I can find this guy. Resources, courses, training, videos, offers, meetup, Practice page. Oh my gosh, practice page. This is so hidden. All right, so this is a practice page, and see if you can automate controls. They have XPath, CSS, and then if we look down over here, you're going to see these elements are all in a shadow DOM. So if your automation tool is able to do this, that would be a cool idea. You know what? I'm going to go and put this into my site. All right, what was the last thing we said over here? Okay, there's some sort of backspacing. Let's go do some QA testing, and we'll come back to this. On my list, we're going to close this off. There we go. So remember, I was typing into this, and it's doing all sorts of weird stuff. And now I'm going to go and hit the refresh and see if we have fixed that. And it is fixed. Yay. That's a cool thing about AI. I love it. All right. So another thing we want to do is we want to add this link for, and what did we call it? What did he call it? He called it the practice page. The selectors hub practice page. All right. We'll do that and see where it puts it. All right. So we had a bunch of extra stuff that got popped up, and I'm going to go back over here and continue scrolling down. So we talked about the iframes and Shadow DOM. You have a fake combo box. I came across this in my first automation project. It was not a combo box. It was an input field and a select field all put together. And the interface, the automation tool, which was Windrunner at the time, I still have it, still sitting here, little souvenir. That would not interact with it, and I had to come up with a trick to figure out how to do this. And the trick was, so I clear this up a little bit over on the screen. The trick to do that was that I had to, what we were trying to do is we would have the list, and if you started typing into it, it would open it up. The problem was when the automation tool typed into it, it would just type some stuff and it wouldn't open up the list. The only way I could get it to do it was to put the focus on the element and then hit the tab button, which would move to the next item, and then hit shift tab, which would move it back up to the list and automatically open it up. Hey, whatever works. And it wasn't a problem that was seen by the manual testers, so you couldn't really write it down. But it solved it as an issue, and the actual issue was that it was a fake combo box, an input field on top of a select. And I bet you're sitting there thinking, Paulie, how could we ever possibly test that? Well, guess what? I've got a whole bunch of projects, and that project is actually listed here. We're going to go take a look, see if I can go and find it. That is the Combo Box Challenge. So if I go over to the Combo Box Challenge, this is a standard combo box. If I click on it, I can select Saturday, or I can put in Tunk Day. There's no such thing as Tunk Day, but it says, hey, I selected Tunk Day. Now this one over here, exact same thing, except that this is a simulated combo box. This is a input field element here, and it is sitting on top of a drop-down box that I could go and select a month from. So this one selects the day with a standard one. I take that out. I could go and hit this and say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday, and this could select a month. They are essentially the same things, except this is a standard combo box and this is a simulated one. All right, let's go back to our little list. we need to be able to find something by relative element location. It should be near, above, below, to the right of, to the left of something. We should be able to detect a random toast pop-up message. And if the pop-up message is detected, it should save it, because toast messages disappear after a few seconds. So even if your next command is to verify the toast pop-up message, the first thing it would look for is to see if the toast pop-up message is in there. And the second thing is you should be holding on to a history of toast pop-up messages that have appeared, captured, and save it into some sort of cache so that you can go and check it out. There's a date picker up here. I do have it listed in red. Date pickers are really tricky. Some people will go crazy trying to actually use the date picker in the field. And the big problem is that you don't want to do that. Let's see if I have a date picker. Let's see if we can go to Google and see if we can find a date picker, and I can explain this to you. Date picker. There's material design, date pickers. Let's see if we have an example right there. So the point I'm trying to make here, let's see if we can actually have one that's, is there one that's live? Can I go and look at a live date picker? Let's see, design kick. Are you going to show me a design, a live? I'd like to see a live session. I don't see a live session going over here. That's just going over to Figma. I want to see it live. How about a date down here? Do I have a date picker in this? Anyway, the point is that some people will try to select the year, get the month, and then click on that. Don't do that. Just enter the date into the input field. That's exactly what you need to do when you're doing automation. Don't mess around with date pickers. And you'll notice it's put in red, and I actually sit there and says it's an accuracy rabbit hole. And boy, that doesn't look really written well, but we want to enter the date directly. Don't test third-party widgets. It's not your place to be testing third-party widgets. Your elements should be self-healing. Everybody knows that, but it is kind of an advanced feature. Virtual and infinite scroll lists. You should be able to, that when it sets a virtual infinite scroll list, it means the element, items that you're looking for may not exist until you actually scroll down some more, which makes it really difficult to do that. That's an advanced feature. If your interactive site has that, be sure to make sure you can work on it. Rich text editor, MCI or Quill. That is a tricky little text editor that you'd have to work with. It has the make things text italics or bold. You might want to see if you're working with a canvas, can your tool interact with a canvas element? And then there are third-party elements out there, like Telerik. Let's go take a look at Telerik. Let's take a little tour at Telerik. I saw it up there for a moment. I know it's green. There's Telerik. Let's go to Telerik. And accept their cookies. And we have demos. And there's some elements over here. Are you using Xamarin products? See if we have that. I know we have it's under documents and supports. And here's demos. And I think that just brought us back to the same one. So I know that there is a version of this. Under docs. Okay, so here's all these controls. And what we were talking about the Telerik controls. So here's a Telerik date picker. And it's a screen capture of it. But also inside of here, you can actually see live modes. I have seen live modes. Standard date format. See also. Let me see if I can find, because I know I've seen these over here. It's just been a little while. I want to start the free trial. I want to see the actual elements. I know there's an accordion, visual structure, getting started. Let's see if I can find this. I don't want to install it. I want to see the exact example, which I know they have here. Used to be under demos and also docs and support. About support and learning hub. Let's go to demos. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I just didn't scroll down long enough. Windows. Okay, that's nice. View samples, view the actual documentation. I've changed this. You can view samples in GitHub. That's cool. Don't care. Components. Buttons. Button groups. Accessibility. It's interesting. Motion physics. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Specs. Android implementation. Well, pause animations. I'm going to go and let's see if we go to web materials. And this is on GitHub again. Not where I want to be. All right. Anyway, we've gone on such a long little trip over here. Telerik and DevExpress, I do know have samples of that. I'm going to have to go and find those. I used to think I could get those right off the top of my head. Element attributes, what you should be able to pull from your elements. Tag, ID, namespace holder, and text. That's your basics. If you can't get those, you're probably going to have trouble interacting with your elements. Advanced ones, area label. You'll find text that maybe you found the text over here. You can find an area label. Data QA. This is a contract dedicated to QA only attributes, and it is a contract between you and your developers, and you promise you never change them. Everything else can change. I don't care if the ID, the name, the placeholder, all that stuff can change, but the data QA element, whatever you call it, has to stay static. Also want to take a look at title. You also want to be able to look for substreams and in some cases, case insensitive text. Well, now you're automating and chugging along away, but the next thing is you also want to have basic and advanced weighting. So the first thing is you have your hard-coded weight, but you don't do that. We don't recommend it. You want to look for these and then see if you can modify them so that they're flexible, dynamic, that they can adjust based on what the status of the page is. What's the status of the element you're trying to interact with next? Checking to see if the network is idle and if you detect a spinner on the page. Those are your kind of must-haves. Now, the other thing is that developers will have other ways of doing spinners. Might have a loading state on there. You might have your page state, what state the page is, if it's ready, or custom messages that say the page is still loading. You also want to have toast message capture. While you're waiting, you might have toast messages popping up and saying stuff. Bad page build reload. If this is basically In the internet, there is transient errors that occur. Transient errors that just, the page breaks and maybe you were recording, maybe you got a screen capture, but can you repeat it? No. And what do manual testers do? They just basically hit the refresh button up there. Like reload, try again. I bet you hear all that noise in the background. I don't know. It's my two dogs chasing each other up and down the stairs. Next is speed. How can you squeeze a little bit more speed out of this? Well, first thing is, number one, running it in headless mode. And here it says headless versus headed mode. Well, that's redundant. I should go fix that. We'll fix that a little later. But yes, headless mode versus headed mode. Headed's going to run a little slower. Headless runs faster, but you can't see it. So it's not good for debugging. It's better for your runs. And hopefully you get the exact same results when you're doing that. Of course, the other thing you do is do parallel testing, running in multiple browsers at the same time, multiple tabs. And let's see, do I have other ones over here? There's one I'm missing here. The other one, running in parallel execution, it's only limited by the number of cores that you have. And parallel execution could be multiple machines being launched and running. Then you've got basic speed, highlighting, and screen capture. To identify what it is that you're looking for, especially if you get multiple matches for whatever you're looking for, I want to have a screen capture of what was matched on that multiple match. Especially if you're looking for add to cart. Say if you're going to Best Buy and you're searching for TVs. There's 65 of them. Let's go see if we can find them. There they are. And look at there's my favorite button, add to cart, add to cart, add to cart. Remember, we were talking about stuff that is relative. Maybe you're looking for specifically this TV. You want to hit this add to cart, which is below this description for this particular TV. If you have multiple ones, you want to highlight them and see which, what were you looking for? What were you identifying? In fact, if you're doing relative element location, you should highlight the text that you found and the element that you're seeing. And in fact, you should check to make sure the text is visible. But still, we'll talk about that in just a moment. The other thing is when you're running locally, you can do multiple browsers, multiple test cases. But that's really dependent on your RAM and your CPU. How do you know how much RAM and CPU you have? Well, it's Control-Alt-Delete. Hopefully, you'll all be able to see this in a moment. Here's my task manager that's coming up over here. And I can go click on, you can see my CPU is not much is being used. There we go, 26%. I knew something was being used. And these are all the things that I've got open and running using 13% of my CPU and 48% of my memory. Memory is okay until you get to 75, 85%. At that point, you're going to experience some major issues on performance. Speaking of performance, I can go click on the performance and click on CPU, and you can see over here, I have 5, 10, 15, 20 CPUs all chugging away, doing all sorts of cool things to provide you this video that I'm showing over here. My speed is running about 3 gigahertz, which is pretty decent. It is an MSI system. So the point about this is the more CPUs, the more RAM you have. And I'm not sure if you noticed that the RAM is 64 gigs of RAM, DDRS. DDR5 that I'm running over there. The faster and better CPU and memory you have, the more browsers you can run in parallel, and more headless browsers you can run in parallel. It's a little under double the amount of memory, the amount of size there. So you got 64 gig DDR over there. This is only 2 of 3 things that impact your system. And the third thing used to be your disk drive, but now we're all using, nobody's using hard disk drives. you're all using SSD. But the third thing is your motherboard. The motherboard, you probably may not know this. Your motherboard runs at a standard 100 megahertz speed. 100 megahertz. Everybody's got the same kind of motherboard, unless you happen to have a really souped up motherboard running at like 133 or 130 or 166, and that makes a significant difference in everything that you do. And you're like, Paulie, where could I get such a machine like that? Well, there's only one I know of at the moment. I'm sure there's more, but it's Alienware. So if you take a look at Alienware, these machines will have it, and take a look at those prices on those Alienware machines. There's a reason for this. Also, your cores, i7, it's actually a lower grade machine. And it should be an i9. This is an Ultra 9. And what you want to be looking for is motherboard speed. MHZ. And if you take a look at these guys over here, well, there's Alienware, which got bought up by Dell. And if I take a look and find megahertz, let's see if I can find MHZ. And maybe this will not be a list over here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go, and I guess I could go ask Gemini, saying, what can you do? What is the motherboard speeds of Alienware computers? And that should come back and tell us. Yeah, it thought it was talking about RAM, and then it just decided to go away. So guess what we're not going to be using anymore? We're not going to be using Gemini. I have my dogs over here bothering me. What we also could do is use Claude or Copilot. Let's go take a look at Copilot. Here's Copilot. Okay, we'll do a new chat. The machines have the fastest MHZ for the motherboard. I'm pretty sure Alienware will come up with that. They got experiments. Everybody loves experiments. And it is thinking about it. Wow, well, that's boring. We'll come back to that. So as I mentioned, your speed, your CPU, your cores determine how many things that you can run locally on your system. And of course, if you're running in the cloud, it's how many virtual machines you have running up there. Browser context reuse. This is being able to save your sessions data so you can find it. I also like to put in a locator cache. This goes with my automatic controls. Dogs are going nuts. They're getting the zoomies. This is if you have a self-healing functionality in your framework. The locators are going to have different new locators if you're being able to successfully find them. It's usually best to cache those out because your test might be coming across them over and over again, and might as well do that. Yeah, an alarm is going off on one of my phones, but we're almost done over here. Of course, being able to record movies and then more importantly, clean up any recordings you have. CI/CD organization. At the very basic, you want to have smoke tests. That's about 10% of your test cases. Sanity, which is the next 20%. That adds up to a total of 30. And if you subtract that from 100%, your full regression is whatever's left over. That's 70% of your test cases. You should be able to have end-to-end tests and search tests. You should be able to mark them off as work in progress, meaning don't run these because they're still being worked on, and also be able to run them in online cloud processes like GitHub under Testmoo, and you should be able to rerun the test on failure. I usually only do a rerun once. If you want to do an advanced one, well, you want to definitely rerun that test after the suite completes, so that it might be 10-20 minutes later in case you're running over midnight and you happen to hit the point where all of the systems get updated. I also want to take a look at how to retry flaky test detection. Test sharding is splitting off your virtual machines so that you can run in parallel, but you want to do that smart. Tagged and labeled run test runs. And there's other places aside from GitHub and Testmoo. There's, of course, Sauce Labs and BrowserStack that you could run your test cases at. You have your code versioned over GitHub or GitLab. And you also want to have different actions, GitHub actions, for different environments in case you're working in production, QA, and staging. And we are down to data. Couple more things. Boy, we have a lot to go here. Your data should not be hard-coded. You should have variables. The important stuff should be masked. Environmental variables that can be passed in from your command prompt when you're running and testing. Test fixtures that have static JSON files that are providing information to you. You should have multiple test user accounts. Most importantly, if you're testing in production, those user credentials should not be the same as your test credentials. More advanced, you should have a database query search. You should be able to do API record creation. You should have seeding and teardown strategies for creating records that you need to check. You should be able to fake up and synthesize test data. You should have some sort of configuration management for multiple environments. This means that if you're running something in production, it may not have the same user path as the QA or the pre-production, pre-prod environment. Credentials should be coming from a vault, not committed somewhere into your hub. And also capture bearer tokens so that you can reuse. You don't have to keep re-authenticating to do every single one of your systems there. You should be able to do custom code. Every tool does everything that you want. So you should have the ability to add whatever you want, such as using TypeScript to go and interact with your browser page. Of course, having a page object model is a concept that's, if you're working in a coded environment, you should be able to have the page objects split into two different levels. Of course, one being the objects that appear on a specific page, such as these elements here, versus objects that appear on every single page. Let's see if I go over to Best Buy. Every single page has this branding on it, no matter where I go. But the elements for a TV page is going to be completely different from radio or internet and other cool things that you can get at Best Buy. At a custom level, you should be able to create custom commands and helpers in your automation framework, such as click, that will go and fix the locator, at least give a couple shots at it. And you should be able to pass values in and out of JavaScript. As you, if you're generating code in the page, you should be able to capture it and send it back out to your framework, which means you're passing values in and out our JavaScript from the browser side of the tool. Reporting, you should at least be sending stuff out to the console log. You might have notifications by email. Definitely want to be sending stuff by Allure. However, you can also do notifications in Slack and Teams is another way that I prefer to do it. You, of course, need some test case management like TestRail or X-Ray. And the Allure will give you historical trends database. Make sure your historical trends look really good. If I go to Google over here, and say allure historical trend and get images. I can show you what one of these looks like. There's a nice one over here, visual analysis. You're going to show it to me. I'm looking for the specific one, but that ain't the one I'm looking for. So let's go keep going until we find exactly what is there. I don't see it there. I don't see it. Booger. All right. How about this one? This is actually a good one. Good example over here. Can I see this? So this is what a trend chart looks like. Day one, you had no test cases. Day two, they wrote 35 test cases, and about 25 of them passed. A few more failed. 4 of them failed. 3 of them, so three of them failed, and 4 of them had some sort of warning or issue being done. This is a warning area. And we can see that this is bad because the green area is getting smaller. The warnings are getting larger. But at the very least, you can say the errors have dissipated. At least one point, there were no errors being listed over here. So you really want to have more green than yellow and no red when you're doing that. Basic security, you should be able to log in, log out. Your password should have masked fields. Especially if you're looking for something that has a type of password in the element. Don't send it out to your reports. I prefer to have a semi-masked password because sometimes the passwords gets changed and you don't know what the current one is. You don't know what the last one is. But if you're shown the first 2 or 3 characters, you're good. That's my personal favorite, especially if it's in a QA environment. Protected route redirect if it's unauthorized, unauthenticated changes, all sorts of other different things that you want to do on your basic security. Verify SSL verifications to make sure you get a login error that does not give you any hints, and credentials sourced from the vault, not hard-coded. We mentioned that a couple times. Advanced versions is like looking for cross-site injection, token presence, privileged escalations attempts, trying to make sure that users cannot gain admin level access in any way, and prevent account lockouts. One thing over here is to identify that the system did not let you in with a bad user credentials. You might want to check and make sure that your user credentials, your test account credentials, don't actually change. I know there's rules for actual users that they must change every quarter, but that puts a bigger burden on your QA environment if they're trying to find bugs for you. If they get slowed down every month or 3 months, that is meaning more bugs are getting into your system, and more of your more bugs are getting in your system, and more money is being lost to your competitor. And then, of course, lastly, we have AI. Basic AI, you could use it for test creation. Natural language, that means doing things in plain English. Click add to cart or search for a product and put it in my cart. Check it out, buy it, and return it. AI-generated test case data. We kind of mentioned that earlier before. Self-healing elements, AI MCPs can actually look at your test cases and say, okay, I know what's changed, and fix the test cases. You have visual AI, computer vision. Check and make sure you see something on the screen in case you're not able to find it virtually, literally on the page. It's always good for checking for images that you're expecting to see. Flakiness reduction with dynamic weight. So those are some of the AI, and the AI can put that in there. For on the advanced side, you have autonomous root cause analysis. Why did this thing break? How do we stop it from breaking again? Having intelligent prioritization of tests. My intelligent test prioritization is whatever's going to lose the company the money the most very quickly. That's a risk-based analysis. And also, what is the new features that we have out there? And then the rest of it is regression testing, making sure that what passed before, it passes today. Failure clustering to identify, hey, is the tracking if the same issue has been occurring in the same spot. Agentic automated testing, having the AI walk through the whole process, assuming it knows exactly what kind of data to use, what the paths the users things are. You can train AIs to do that, and then report back what it sees. And on the fly script generation. So those are 177 different features that listed in basic and advanced that you would have a checklist for. You could go and talk with the salespeople who are trying to sell you a product. And of course, there's a lot of them. ExcelQ, Autify, Autonomous by Applitools, Bug, Chromatic, Context QA, Cypress, Eggplant, Functionize, Harness, Gina, Kane AI, Kusho, Perforce, Playwright, Puppeteer, QA Wolf, Qmetry, Ranorex, Reflect, Reprise, Test Collab, Test Complete, Testers AI. Definitely check that guy out. Testers AI is super cool. Here, I actually want to go and before we wrap this up, go over to Testers AI, take a look at Jason Arbon and his cool thing. He's got all sorts of new stuff, and he has always got a little demo that he has playing. Let's see if we can find the demo that is usually on the top of his site. And I do not quite see it. 20 different steps over here. That's all kind of cool. I wish he had the video going on over there. Now I gotta go look through it. Testers AI in YouTube. See if I can find that. Testers.ai. I can find a nice little video of that. Let's see if there's something pretty cool. All right, so here's one. Let me go look, see if I can find the video where it is going through looking for stuff. And I do not see it. Well, actually, this one will do. So this is actually got AI. These are all AI units up there, little creatures that are going in, looking through your website, and each one looks for something different. There's 9 of them that looks for different particular areas, and then they report back to one manager who looks and sees if any of them have replicated the same results and gets rid of them. So definitely check that out. It also has, you can see, WCAG accessibility audits built into that. All right. I think we are at the bottom of our list for AI stuff. Yes, we are looking through the different items there. I like Testers AI, Test Him, Testing On, Test Rigger, Test Sigma, Tosca, UFT, one developer, which I worked with on for 12 years. Vibium, which is a new thing that's coming out from the makers of Selenium, Wopi AI, and Zaptest. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for watching this view. This is your list over here. You can find it at this URL, and I'll be adding more stuff and kind of cleaning it up as we go along. And with that said, I'm going to hope you have a great Tuesday. I'm the Dark Arts Wizard. I'm Paul Grossman. I'm also looking for a job. So if you're looking for somebody who has interests like I do and you want to hire him, hey, I'm available. All right, everyone. Take care. Cheers. Have yourself a great day.